To you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. And obviously, I get lost in this beautiful site that we have up here. I will talk today about data protection, but not about a typical approach, but how actually the new age, the millennials, are handling data protection and whether they truly need it in the concept as security specialist would them want to need it. I'm a director of education and training at Cyber Services, which is a cybersecurity company located in Hungary. We are mainly focusing on capacity building activities, meaning we're training, educating people, and we're focusing on technical approaches, incident handling, and these two fields are collaborating with each other, strengthening our knowledge and the capacity of our customers. I'm a senior cybersecurity expert, also an ethical hacker. So what I'm going to share with you today is based on my field experience and based on everything that me and my colleagues actually experience today. But what are we talking about? I will talk about the millennials, the millennial generation, which is people born from around mid-80s to the early 2000s. And before that, I would like to talk a little bit selfishly about my generation, Generation X, which is just the previous generation, the one after the baby boomers. And I think it's a really cool generation because you can put it like an X-Men logo there, and everybody likes Logan. So what are we? Actually, technology that we are used today was invented and developed throughout how we grew up. We discovered the technology together. We discovered the digitalization together. And I remember the first time we had commercial internet at home available in Hungary. It was like 25 years ago. That was when the internet boom began. And I remember when 10 years ago Steve Jobs announced the iPhone. And of course, everybody knows how it revolutionized the smartphone industry, and we all know the history since then. But there's one key aspect that normally not everybody talks about regarding the iPhone. The iPhone was the first phone that you could only buy with a data plan, meaning that you couldn't have an iPhone without internet connection. And that's a key difference that actually was a game changer back then. And ever since it is. So, what do we know about millennials? I will talk about a couple of trends and to sum it up. So, this year, in 2017, they are the biggest online community, and they are the one with the highest purchasing power. And actually, in the last 15 years or 10 years, the e-commerce moved to m-commerce. It's the mobile-first approach that I will talk about later, and it will move towards the AI, the artificial intelligence commerce, but that's a little bit different topic. They want to have personalized experiences. They don't want to be called dear sir, dear customer, dear whomsoever. They want to be called by their name. That's why they share their data. They get connected through social media. That's their very first point of interest. That's where they get the information. And they check the reviews, they check the news, they ask for assistance. It's kind of like an omnipresence that is their normal behavior. This requires companies and organizations to be very strategic how they address this group of people, these millennials. They don't use TVs. They don't really read newspapers. Traditional media connectivity is not something for them. And they can be only excited by content. They need constant stimulation. They use multiple platforms parallelly. They check the Facebook, they check Instagram, they check YouTube, they check everything, and they are doing multitasking pretty fast. Also, mobile is the first way how we can reach out for, let's call them iGens. I usually rather would call them the sum generation because they are using their sums for interaction. And their decisions are based mainly on the information available that is coming through mobile. And this is where all the approaches how we are, or how organizations are trying to reach or deliver the message to them has to be mobile first. Plus, because they have their mobiles with them, they are documenting everything. Today's generation, today's youth have one of the best documented teenage years ever. I could do some pretty silly things when I was a teenager because no one took a picture of it. I'm not sure whether I would do this nowadays, or at least I do not recommend for teenagers to document everything that they do actually. And they are here. They are entering the workforce. They are spending money that they are earning. They are making important decisions, and they actually grew into the technology. They have never been part of the world where there was no internet. They hardly remember the time when there was no Facebook. And as the saying goes, if a couple of billion new users come online, in cybersecurity we call that a couple of billion new vulnerabilities. And they are tech savvy. They use the technology. They act, react, and they share, they ask, and actually they have a huge digital footprint. And they don't really seem to care about it. What they do care about is the experience. And they talk, they upload pictures, they share their location data. It's a cybersecurity nightmare, what they are doing in terms of privacy. But we have some numbers regarding some cybersecurity questions. And actually it turns out that in some kind of idealistic way, they trust organizations, that organizations keep their data safe. They trust that their primary bank, 67% of the asked millennials told that they trust that the bank will keep their data safe. However, when the question is asked whether do they trust the organizations that they handle their data in a private way or their privacy is not affected, then they are not so optimistic about it. Less than 50% said only that they trust that the providers are taking care of their privacy at a high level. And actually, they still trust them. And what's interesting that this generation is, as I said before, they don't know the world without the internet. They don't know the world without databases. They hardly remember the world without smartphones. So actually, everything being online is the new normal. And with data breaches happening every day, it's something like, okay, it's online, it can be breached, so data breaches seem to be normal for them. And here comes the thing. They grew into a technology that they understand better, or at least that's communicated by them, that they understand this technology better that they use than the people who actually made this technology. The question is, who taught them how to use the technology? Who taught them what they are using, how they are using it, and how it should be handled secure? There are some clear expectations that the millennials have. They ask for coaching, and they are happy to get some. Of course, if you have sons or children, it's not applicable for your own children because they are usually not happy if you coach them, but everyone else's children is happy if you coach them. They require clear career paths that they can follow, and also they are into lifelong learning, which is a good thing. This is something that we can build upon. And some of the solutions to raise, we have to realize that the millennials will not change their attitude, will not change how they behave online. At least not at the very key terms. I mean, they will still share their photos, they will still share their location, they will still exchange everything online. That's something happening. So what we should do is, rather than fixing the user, we should fix the technology. We should fix the legislation that's supported by the technology, and we shall have solutions for this. GDPR is one of the solutions that is coming, and actually I am supporting it because that's something that makes the organization realize that they are responsible for the data that they hold. Like I said, they use mobile phones as their main information source. In order to reach them, the solution has to come via the platforms that they are actually using. I do believe that future education will be not all the academia type of sitting down and learning, but a lot of will be done by Apple, by the Apples, by the Samsung, by the Microsofts, and these type of service providers who actually reach and provide the technology that the millennials are using. There has to be a constant awareness. They have to be aware. They are willing to learn. They like coaching, but someone has to give them the information that they require, how they should react. I'm actually going to elementary schools and secondary schools to talk to kids about cyber threats and cyber attacks. And I'm going there as an ethical hacker, and I talk to them not the typical data security and IT security things that they already receive, like changing the passwords and all those kind of things. Awareness should be something that is put into context. Why these attacks are happening, how these attacks are happening, who is making that attack happening. In most of the cases, it's not even a human behind the attack. In most of the cases, it's some kind of script that is just collecting something. It's looking for default passwords and all those kind of things. Like we used to say, the experts are in this room and the users are out there, so we have to somehow let the expertise flow and reach the user. And this raises the last topic, the education part. Education can only be done properly if it starts from the very early age, and it's lifelong learning. So I suggest having a cooperation with the academia, with the industry, and with the government to provide the education that is actually required for millennials and the next generation, the alpha generation. So when they grow up and they use that technology, even at the very early ages, from age 4, age 3, they are already using YouTube, they are already using the internet, they are sharing and they are communicating on platforms that, well, not even their parents are aware of what they are doing. So this is an issue and this is a challenge that needs to be addressed. And of course, there are some good solutions already forming, and I truly hope that this is the direction that actually we will go. Thank you.